In the blistering heat of the Egyptian desert, the sun hung heavy in the sky, a fiery orb worshipped as Ra by the ancient inhabitants of the Nile Valley. Deep within the labyrinthine corridors of the Temple of Karnak, whispers of an unspoken truth flowed through the priesthood, like the currents of the great river itself. Among the hieroglyphs, where gods and pharaohs shared equal reverence, lay hidden knowledge of a reality far beyond human understanding. The High Priest Akhemnu stood before the great obelisk, its polished surface gleaming under the scorching sunlight. Behind him, a select group of acolytes knelt in reverence, their breath steady as they prepared for the rite that connected them to the starlords, beings who had once walked among mortals, cloaked in the guise of deities. These were not gods in the traditional sense, but entities from distant stars, masters of science and consciousness, whose influence had shaped the cradle of human civilization. The Star Lords have watched over us since the time of Zep-Tepi, Akhemnu intoned, his voice reverberating through the sacred hall. Through their guidance, we built monuments that touched the heavens and learned the secrets of life and death. The gathered priests and priestesses formed a circle, their golden robes shimmering like the sands outside. In the center of the circle lay an intricate mosaic, a map of the constellations, adorned with symbols no common scribe could decipher. It was said to be a gift from the Star Lords themselves, containing coordinates to their distant worlds. "Prepare your minds," Akhemnu instructed, gesturing toward the sacred altar. At its center stood the Eye of Sekhem, a crystalline orb pulsing with an otherworldly light. The artifact, rumored to have been forged in the heart of a dying star, served as a conduit for the communion ritual. Its energy resonated with the vibrations of the universe, aligning the consciousness of the priests with the minds of the Star Lords. As the meditation began, the room filled with a low hum. The priests entered a trance-like state, their breaths synchronized, their bodies motionless. Akhemnu guided them through the ancient chants, his voice a steady beacon in the shifting currents of their collective mind. The temple walls seemed to dissolve, revealing a vast expanse of stars. Akhemnu's consciousness drifted, carried across light years by the Eye of Sekhem's power. He felt the presence of the Star Lords before he saw them, towering beings of light and energy, their forms ever-changing, radiating wisdom and power. They communicated not in words, but in thoughts, an intricate dance of ideas and images that transcended language. "Why do you call upon us, children of Kemet?" The Star Lord's collective voice resonated, each word a note in a cosmic symphony. "Great Star Lords," Akhemnu replied, his mind bowing in reverence. "Our world faces turmoil. The pharaoh's line weakens, and invaders eye our lands. We seek your guidance to preserve the balance and ensure the wisdom you have imparted endures." The Star Lords paused, their radiant forms flickering as they deliberated. Then, an image formed in Akhemnu's mind, a vision of the Great Pyramid, its apex glowing with a brilliant light. Energy radiated outward, forming a protective barrier over the Nile Valley. "Activate the Sekhem Grid," the Star Lords instructed. "The pyramids are more than tombs. They are receivers and transmitters of cosmic energy. Unite their power through the eye, and your land will be shielded." Akhemnu's consciousness returned to the temple, the Star Lord's final words echoing in his mind. "The fate of Kemet lies in your hands. Use our gifts wisely, for they are a bridge, not a crutch. Humanity's potential is far greater than you can imagine." The priests emerged from their trance, their faces glowing with renewed purpose. Akhemnu relayed the Star Lord's instructions, and preparations for the Sekhem Grid activation began immediately. Over the following weeks, the priesthood worked tirelessly, decoding the ancient texts and aligning the pyramid's energy channels with the Eye of Sekhem. Every detail had to be precise. A single misstep could disrupt the delicate balance of cosmic forces. Meanwhile, rumors of the priesthood's activities spread among the people. The common folk spoke of divine intervention, while skeptics whispered of madness. But when the day of activation arrived, the entire city gathered at the base of the Great Pyramid, their skepticism mingling with awe. As the sun reached its zenith, Akhemnu and his acolytes ascended the pyramid, the Eye of Sekhem cradled in a golden stand. chanting ancient hymns. They placed the artifact atop the apex. A beam of light shot skyward, piercing the heavens. The crowd gasped as the pyramids across the land responded, their tips glowing with an ethereal light. The Sekhem Grid activated, enveloping the Nile Valley in a shimmering dome of energy. The air vibrated with a strange hum, and the people felt an unexplainable sense of unity and peace. The invaders who had approached the borders retreated, their armies inexplicably disoriented. But the activation had unforeseen consequences. The energy surge awakened dormant artifacts buried deep beneath the sands, remnants of the Star-Lord's ancient presence. One such artifact, a massive obelisk encoded with advanced technology, began emitting a distress signal, a call to the stars. Unbeknownst to the priesthood, the signal reached distant ears. Far beyond the grasp of human telescopes, a fleet stirred. Not all Star-Lords had humanity's best interests at heart. A rogue faction, exiled for their obsession with conquest, recognized the signal as a chance to reclaim their foothold on Earth. Weeks later, strange lights appeared in the night sky, moving with purpose. The people of Kemet watched with a mix of awe and dread as celestial beings descended, their ships gleaming like polished obsidian. The priesthood gathered in the temple, their minds racing. Akhemnu once again communed with the Star-Lords, seeking guidance. "Defend your world," the Star-Lords commanded. "Use the knowledge we have given you. Humanity's strength lies in its unity and ingenuity. Prove yourselves worthy of the gifts you have received." The priests worked tirelessly, adapting the Sekhem Grid to repel the invaders. They discovered that the pyramids, when properly aligned, could project not only a defensive barrier, but also offensive bursts of energy. Akhemnu and his acolytes led the charge, their minds and bodies synchronized with the pyramid's power. When the invaders landed, they were met with a force they did not expect. The pyramid's energy blasts struck their ships, disrupting their advanced technology. The people of Kemet, inspired by the priesthood's courage, rose to defend their land with whatever means they had. The battle raged for days, but the tide turned in humanity's favor. The invaders, unable to withstand the combined might of the Sekhem Grid and the resilience of the people, retreated to the stars, their ambitions thwarted. As the dust settled, Akhemnu stood before the Great Pyramid, his heart heavy with the weight of their victory. The Star-Lord's words echoed in his mind. "Humanity's potential is far greater than you can imagine." The priesthood vowed to safeguard the Star-Lord's knowledge, ensuring it would be passed down through generations. They knew that Earth would face challenges beyond their time, but they also believed in humanity's capacity to rise above adversity. Thus, the legend of the Star-Lords became enshrined in the annals of history, a story whispered among the sands and carried by the winds. And as the centuries passed, the truth of their communion remained hidden, waiting for a time when humanity would once again reach for the stars. In the modern era, amidst the towering skyline of Cairo, a team of archaeologists led by Dr. Leila Hossam unearthed a hidden chamber beneath the Great Pyramid. The chamber, untouched by time, housed intricate carvings and ancient artifacts, including a small, crystalline orb that pulsed faintly with light. Leila's heart raced as she recognized the descriptions from ancient texts she had studied. This was the Eye of Sekhem. "We've found it," she whispered, her voice tinged with awe and disbelief. Her team gathered around, their flashlights casting flickering shadows on the chamber walls. As they examined the chamber, one of the artifacts began to resonate, emitting a low hum that grew steadily louder. The orb's light intensified, bathing the room in an otherworldly glow. Leila instinctively reached out to touch it, and as her fingers brushed the surface, a jolt of energy surged through her. Images flooded her mind, visions of the Star-Lords, their towering forms and radiant energy, the Sekhem Grid's activation, and the great battle fought millennia ago. The knowledge was overwhelming yet exhilarating. Leila staggered back, her team rushing to steady her. "Are you all right?" one of them asked, concern etched on his face. I saw them," Leila said breathlessly. "The Star-Lords. They're real, and they're watching." As she spoke, the orb's hum grew louder, and a beam of light shot upward through the pyramid, piercing the night sky. Across the world, observatories picked up the anomaly, their instruments struggling to interpret the data. Governments scrambled to respond, sending teams to investigate the source of the disturbance. Leila knew they had awakened something. The ancient signal, dormant for thousands of years, had once again reached the stars. The question was who would answer. She turned to her team, determination replacing her initial shock. We need to understand what we've activated and prepare for what's coming. The answers lie in these artifacts. Unbeknownst to them, far beyond Earth's atmosphere, a fleet began to stir, their ships moving with precision and purpose. The rogue faction of the Starlords had been waiting, and now their moment had come. The battle for Earth was about to begin anew. As the rogue Starlords' fleet approached Earth, their massive ships cast eerie shadows over the moon's surface. From deep within the Great Pyramid, the crystalline orb continued to emit its resonant hum. Dr. Leila Hossam stood at the heart of the hidden chamber, her team working feverishly to decode the inscriptions surrounding the Eye of Sekhem. "We need to act fast," Leila said, her voice steady but urgent. "If the rogue Starlords are anything like the legends describe, they won't show mercy." Her assistant, Tariq, pointed to a series of hieroglyphs glowing faintly in the dim light. These symbols described something called the Sekhem Grid. It's tied to the pyramids, but the text suggests it can be used offensively as well as defensively. Leila's mind raced. The Sekhem Grid. If we can figure out how to reactivate it, we might stand a chance. Outside the chamber, a joint task force of scientists and military personnel had gathered. News of the rogue fleet had reached global leaders, prompting an unprecedented collaboration. Satellite feeds displayed the incoming ships, their alien designs unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. Dr. Hossam, a military officer, called from the entrance. "We've got less than 24 hours before those ships enter Earth's atmosphere. What's our plan?" Leila turned, determination flashing in her eyes. "We're going to activate the Sekhem Grid. But first, we need to synchronize the pyramid's energy channels. I'll need your team's help to access the other pyramid sites." As teams were dispatched to Giza, Saqqara, and Dashur, Leila and her core group focused on the Eye of Sekhem. The artifact pulsed more intensely as they worked, almost as if responding to their efforts. With Tariq's help, Leila deciphered the final sequence needed to link the pyramid's energy fields. "It's ready," Tariq announced, sweat beading his brow. "But once we activate it, there's no turning back. The energy output will be massive." Leila nodded. "Then let's make it count." Across the desert, teams at the other pyramids relayed their readiness. Leila placed her hand on the Eye of Sekhem, feeling its power surge through her. She closed her eyes, envisioning the ancient priests who had stood in her place thousands of years ago. Their knowledge, their courage, it all led to this moment. "Activate the grid," she commanded. The pyramids roared to life, beams of light shooting into the sky and converging in a dazzling display of energy. The Sekhem Grid formed a shimmering barrier around the Earth, its surface rippling with raw power. As the rogue fleet drew closer, the grid began to emit bursts of concentrated energy, targeting the alien ships with unerring precision. The first wave of ships disintegrated upon impact, their advanced shields no match for the Sekhem Grid's ancient power. The remaining vessels hesitated, regrouping as they attempted to analyze the unexpected defense. Within the command ship of the rogue fleet, a Star-Lord cloaked in shadow observed the battle. "The humans have rediscovered the grid," it said, its voice a low growl. "They are more resourceful than we anticipated." Back on Earth, Leila and her team watched the battle unfold through satellite feeds. Cheers erupted as one enemy ship after another fell, but Leila's relief was tempered by a sense of foreboding. "This isn't over," she murmured. "They'll adapt. We need to be ready for their next move." The Sekhem Grid had bought humanity time, but the true test was yet to come. The rogue Starlords were not just invaders, they were architects of war, and their next strike would challenge everything Earth had to offer. As the rogue Starlords retreated temporarily to regroup, Earth entered a brief but tense calm. Inside the underground chamber beneath the Great Pyramid, Dr. Leila Hossam and her team worked through the night. The crystalline orb of the Eye of Sekhem glowed brighter with each passing hour, as though aware of the impending danger. This artifact, Tarek began, staring intently at the hieroglyphs they had partially decoded. It's not just a weapon. It's some kind of interstellar communicator. The Sekhem Grid, it's designed to send messages across the stars. Leila paused, her brow furrowed. That explains why the rogue faction arrived so quickly. The signal we activated must have drawn them here. But if it's a communicator, can we use it to call for help? Tarek hesitated. The inscriptions suggest it's possible, but we don't know who might answer. Another friendly Starlord faction, or something worse. Leila exhaled deeply, the weight of the decision pressing down on her. They were racing against time. If the rogue fleet adapted to the Sekhem Grid, Earth's defenses wouldn't hold for long. Do it, she said finally. If there's even a chance of finding an ally, we have to take it. Tarek and the team began recalibrating the Eye of Sekhem. The artifact's glow pulsed in rhythmic waves, each one more intense than the last. Leila monitored the process, her thoughts drifting to the ancient priests who had used this very device. Had they faced a similar choice? Had they gambled humanity's fate on a desperate plea to the cosmos? Outside, the world held its breath. Governments across the globe mobilized their forces, their combined might a testament to humanity's resilience. Civilians took shelter, while scientists and engineers worked to enhance the Sekhem Grid's efficiency. Then the signal was sent. The Eye of Sekhem emitted a beam of energy that pierced through the atmosphere, carrying humanity's call for help to the farthest reaches of the universe. For a moment there was silence. Then, the orb's light dimmed and flared again, as though in response. The team's instruments picked up a faint signal, an incoming transmission. Leila's heart raced as the data resolved into a coherent pattern. It's them, Tarek whispered. A different faction of starlords. And they're offering assistance. Relief washed over the team, but it was short-lived. The incoming transmission revealed more than just an offer of assistance. The message, encoded in a series of vibrant, pulsating images and tones, depicted a dire warning. The rogue faction had a secret weapon, one that could potentially neutralize the Sekhem Grid entirely. The assisting starlords, while advanced and powerful, were still en route, and their arrival would take time. Earth would have to withstand the onslaught until then. Leila's mind churned with urgency. We need to buy time, she said, turning to her team. If the rogue starlords have a way to counter the Sekhem Grid, we need to fortify it and prepare for a backup plan. Tarek glanced at the hieroglyphs again. The texts mention an ancient protocol, something the priests called Sekhem's Wrath. It appears to be a last resort, a massive release of energy that could devastate anything within range, including the pyramids themselves. Leila frowned. That's too great a risk. We can't destroy our own legacy unless it's absolutely necessary. What about coordinating our forces on Earth? Can we link the Sekhem Grid with the technology we have now? Tarek nodded slowly. It might be possible. If we can integrate the grid's energy into our global defense systems, it could amplify their capabilities. But it will require synchronization across multiple nations, and the energy levels could overload our infrastructure. Let's focus on making it work, Leila said firmly. Contact the Global Task Force. We need their cooperation to implement this. Over the next critical hours, Leila and her team worked tirelessly with international scientists, engineers, and military leaders. The Sekhem Grid's power, channeled through Earth's satellites and defense systems, became a unified shield and weapon. As the rogue fleet regrouped and launched their second wave of attacks, humanity stood ready. The night sky turned into a battlefield, with beams of energy from the pyramids slicing through the heavens and Earth's enhanced weaponry firing with newfound precision. The rogue ships unleashed their secret weapon, a sphere of dark energy that seemed to absorb the Sekhem Grid's light. For a moment, the grid flickered, its protective barrier weakening. Leila's voice cut through the chaos. We need to overload the grid's energy output. It's the only way to counter that sphere. Tarek hesitated. If we push it too far, the pyramids might collapse. We don't have a choice, Leila replied. It's either that, or we lose everything. With trembling hands, Tarek adjusted the controls. The Sekhem Grid surged, its light intensifying into a blinding brilliance. The dark energy sphere began to waver, its ominous glow dimming. In a final, desperate burst, the grid shattered the sphere, sending a shockwave through the rogue fleet. Cheers erupted across Earth as one by one the enemy ships exploded or retreated. But the victory came at a cost. The Great Pyramid's apex cracked under the strain, and the Eye of Sekhem dimmed, its energy depleted. Leila collapsed to the ground, exhaustion washing over her. Around her, her team looked equally drained but relieved. They had done it. They had defended Earth. As the first rays of dawn broke over the horizon, the incoming friendly starlords' fleet became visible in the sky, their arrival marking a new chapter in humanity's relationship with the cosmos. The leader of the friendly starlords materialized before Leila, their form a radiant blend of light and energy. "You have shown great courage and ingenuity," they said, their voice a harmonious blend of tones. The rogue faction underestimated humanity's resilience. "With our help, we will rebuild what has been damaged and ensure the Sekhem Grid is restored." Leila looked up at the celestial being, hope and determination filling her heart. "Thank you. But we also need to ensure that Earth never faces this kind of threat again. Can you teach us how to protect ourselves?" The Star-Lord's form flickered, a gesture that seemed to signify agreement. "We will share our knowledge, but it will be up to humanity to wield it wisely. You have proven that you are ready to take your place among the stars." As the dust settled and Earth began to rebuild, the legacy of the Sekhem Grid and the courage of its defenders became a beacon of hope. The story of how humanity had stood against the rogue star lords spread across the cosmos, reminder that even in the face of overwhelming odds, unity and determination could prevail. The battle had been won, but Leila knew their journey was far from over. With the help of their new allies, humanity would prepare for whatever lay ahead, determined to forge their destiny among the stars.